is happening in St Kitts and Nevis, especially in terms of the public sector. Today we are going to be having a discussion on HIV and AIDS. Of course, all of us know what that is. And of course, we are in the month of love, and Valentine's is just around the corner. I suppose that it would be a special occasion for extra love making or something to that effect. But Saint Valentine or Saint Valentine is the patron saint of love and of lovers, and that is where the whole tradition has come from. Today I have with me officials from the National AIDS Secretariat. I have Dr. Matthias Offrey, who is the National HIV/AIDS Program Coordinator. Dr. Offrey, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I also have Mrs. Lucine Pemberton Vaughan, who is Health Educator and Counselor at the National AIDS Secretariat. Mrs. Pemberton Vaughan, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Right. HIV/AIDS, or the human immunodeficiency virus, the acquired immune deficiency syndrome, has been considered by some as a global pandemic, although the World Health Organization, WHO, currently uses the term global epidemic. Statistics have shown that in 2019, there were approximately 38 million people across the globe with HIV/AIDS. Of these, 36.2 million were adults and 1.8 million were children under 15 years old. An estimated 1.7 million individuals worldwide acquired HIV in 2019, marking a 23% decline in new HIV infections since 2010. The Caribbean is the second most affected region in the world in terms of HIV prevalence rates, following that of sub-Saharan Africa. Many factors are fueling the transmission of HIV/AIDS, which include poverty, gender, sex tourism, stigma and discrimination, promiscuity, homophobia, environmental factors, social and public policy. These factors must be comprehensively addressed in tackling HIV/AIDS. And yet, we are in the midst of another global health concern, the coronavirus, or what has come to be known COVID-19 pandemic, that has ravaged the world in such a short space of time, killing over 2 million people and infecting over 106 million people, decimating economies and wreaking havoc on people's social lives and livelihoods. And with the present focus on the challenges of containing the COVID-19, the HIV/AIDS pandemic has been eclipsed. And yet, people living with HIV and AIDS are some of the most vulnerable to the disease because their immune systems have been compromised. Both the HIV, AIDS, and COVID-19 pandemic share much in common, even though vaccines have been developed for the latter and not the former. Containing these viruses has to do with people's behavior, lifestyle. With COVID-19, we are told hand washing, wearing a face mask, and social and physical distancing. With HIV/AIDS, we are told abstinence, faithfulness in relationships, and wearing protective gear, male and female condoms.
That's right.
Dr. Offrey,
Yeah.
let's start with a very basic question. What is the difference between HIV and AIDS?
Thank you for the question. HIV is a virus that causes AIDS, and it's when HIV affects the human cells, it uses it to grow and multiply and attack the immune system. and we all know that the immune system is there to protect us and keep us well. So when the immune system is attacked, we could get seriously ill. And then the AIDS is a collective name given to, it's a name given to a collection of serious illnesses that occur when the immune system has broken down and is unable to, fight infections.
Okay, so therefore, if the immune system is unable to fight infections, that is where then certain diseases take the opportunity.
Definitely. Yes, because that's why it's called opportunistic diseases.
Yes.
Not just one. Immune system is there to really fight everything that comes. But when it's down, so anything like tuberculosis and other infections can come and then take over your body, and then that's where we, subgroup it as AIDS.
Right. Now, so how can one get infected by the virus, and how can it be transmitted? Because the question is always, as with the COVID-19, we want to contain transmission. So how is it transmitted? How does one get it?
There are actually 4 major ways you could acquire and also transmit this virus. The first way is by having unprotected sex with via vagina or anal, with HIV positive individual, and that is the most common route anyway. And then the second one is having unprotected oral sex with HIV positive individual, which that is not common, but it could actually occur when that individual has like open sore, or, bleeding sore, or having a cut of that induced bleeding. So that can actually be transmitted. The other aspect is by needles. And needles, like when people get self-medications at home, also they want to involve in tattoo and all of this stuff, so that can predispose an individual to get infected through needle sharing. And the other very important aspect there is mother-to-child transmission. Mother-to-child transmission, that occurs when a mother is tested positive and can transmit that infection, that virus, to the child through pregnancy, birth, and also through breastfeeding. So these 4 major routes are the ways at which people can get infected and also spread the virus.
Right. Later on, we will speak to St Kitts and Nevis, because I think we have reached a very important milestone some years ago in terms of mother to child transmission of HIV, and so on. But in terms of the sharing of needles, I suppose tattoos and things like and drug use, intravenous drug use, heroin, and so on, that people use needles.
Yes. And also, if I may add to that, the majority in the Caribbean, the majority of men that have been infected by HIV are those that practice unsafe sex. That's sex without condoms, whether through vagina or anal sex. But I want to emphasize that anal sex is very risky, because the body can, the virus can actually infect the body through the thin layer of the anus.
Yes. Okay. Right. How can one find out if he or she is HIV positive? Because, I mean, sex is something, almost everyone is doing it.
Yep.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yes.
It's a very...
Children should not be involved in it. But, of course, that is, school children and so on.
Yes.
Everyone in the age of adolescents and sexually active individuals are advised to ensure to take the test, HIV test. With that you can actually find out to know your status, and also find out if you are HIV positive or negative. Because with that, with the body, when the body is being infected with HIV, the body mounts a response to produce a protein called antibody, which the antibody shows, the test, it shows whether you are positive or negative. That's where the test come to play. So it's very important that every individual involved in sexual activity should ensure to do the test. And in that light, we also make people understand that for example, if you have sex yesterday or last night and you choose to go do the test today, the possibility of the test, in fact, the test might come out negative because the body has not produced an antibody, which is the protein, to detect whether you're positive or negative. So that period takes about 3 months. And so that's why we advise that after every rapid test or after every test done, first test done for HIV, it's advisable that you do another test after 3 months. Because with that, the body must have produced the antibody to really help to detect whether you're positive or negative.
Right. It's just like the COVID-19 virus. We are told that it can take up to 14 days
Yes.
to show up in your system in terms of what you're speaking about, the antibodies and all of that. So it is too, you're saying, that with the transmission of the HIV virus,
Yeah.
that it can take a while before it shows up in your system.
Definitely. And that's why when people end up doing a test and they say negative, they get all lackadaisical about it and celebrate that, oh, it's negative,
Yes.
without knowing that
Window period.
there's a window period for that, for the body to produce antibody to detect whether you're positive or negative.
So at some point you're asymptomatic,
Oh, yes.
Definitely.
just like the COVID-19.
Just like the COVID-19.
But being asymptomatic, does that mean that you can still transmit the virus?
100%. 100%. As long as you're involved in unprotected sex, you can transmit the virus to as many persons as you have an encounter with. So it is always advisable, even if you've done the test, ensure to still practice safe sex by using condoms.
Okay, so it's safe sex is about using condoms. Protected sex is about using condoms. And I see Mrs. Vaughn smiling over there. Can I call you Lucine?
Oh, sure.
Lucine, you have been involved in this area, HIV and AIDS, for a very long time. And education is extremely important in terms of getting people to be aware, of the risks.
Yes.
Getting people to be aware of what it means by, protected sex and safe sex and so on. Now, what sort of education programs does the National AIDS Secretariat have in terms of enlightening people about this HIV and AIDS? I know it has been around since 1981, but later on we look at it, it says it has been around from before that. But that is when it really burst, really on the scene, and we had it spread to other continents from...
What programs do we have in place? We have a school program where
Definitely.
we visit the primary schools and the high schools regularly to speak on sexual health and all of the surrounding issues with HIV and AIDS and the other sexually transmitted infections. We are in the workplaces as well. So certain businesses and organizations would call us. If they don't, we invite ourselves. We go to churches, we are on the block, we are on the streets, we are anywhere people are, we are there spreading the word. Even on Friday afternoons, you can see me walking down 4th Street issuing condoms and lubricants and just meeting people and having that one-on-one talk.
As well as private sectors, we reach out to private sectors having one-on-one meeting with the workers, to educate them about what HIV is about, how they can protect themselves, and also provide condoms and other both female and male condoms, and also educate them on how it could be properly used, because that's very important. If you don't know how to use it properly, you end up exposing yourself to risks of it being destroyed in the process, or properly and not being used to achieve a given purpose.
And now that we have a new coordinator, I am certain that we would be more out on the media, on TV and radio. I'm not that type. You know that I have a speech impediment. So I love my live audiences because I feed off of that energy. So, yeah, you'll be seeing us a lot more often.
Definitely.
Okay, now this rapid testing, what is it about? The rapid HIV testing, what is it?
Rapid testing, HIV testing, as its name implies, rapid. It's a test that gives result in a spontaneous time frame of about 15 minutes the max. And with that, when somebody has been infected with HIV, as I said before, the body recognizes the foreign particles in that has been invaded the body, and as such mount a response by producing the protein, which is the antibody. So, and that antibody is what the rapid testing detects to differentiate whether a person is HIV positive or negative. So it's a very quick test. Come get it done in 15-20 minutes, you're out of there. As well as a little counseling will be made available for you to understand what's the process you're about to go undertake, and also why you need to take it and how safe it is.
Now the month of love, we are in the month of love, February, and Valentine's Day is on the 14th, and I understand that you would have launched some slogans and you have a sort of operation that you want to tell the public about.
Yes, Mr. Williams, you know that Valentine's period is one that is heightened with emotions and romance.
Definitely.
And you hear love is in the air and people act like they don't care. And you know too, unfortunately, that love is used as a password. Look at my eyes now, don't miss it. Love is used as a password to get into softwares and onto hard drives. Do you understand that?
Well, I know what software is and I know what hard drive is, and
Okay.
I suppose my imagination can go wild.
Yes.
Idiomatic expression.
Let it go. Let it go. And when they get into these softwares and on the hard drives, it sometimes leaves them with devastating effects. You see, on this busy highway called love, accidents can and will happen.
Definitely.
Especially around this period when everybody is expressing love. And so the National AIDS Secretariat is committed to reducing and eliminating such accidents through our operation Safe Streets, Safe Sheets at the Independence Square this coming Friday, February 12th, 9 a.m. sharp to 5 p.m. dull. When I say 9 a.m. sharp, you know what I mean. If you show up at 8:59, at 8:59, we would be ready to service you. Well, sorry, we would be ready to give you that service, no pun intended. And if you come to the sharp, if you reach at 5:05, because we are committed to putting people first, we would wait for you.
Right.
So we are not so quick to end the operation as we are to begin.
Right. So what would that day consist of? What would you be doing on that day?
Okay, Operation Safe Streets, Safe Sheets is as its name implies. We are trying to make our sheets safe by making our streets safe. Operation Safe Streets, Safe Streets is actually a drive giving as many persons the opportunity to know one's status. If you know your status, you can not only protect yourself, you can also protect the other person. So when we rid of our streets of STIs, specifically HIV, we are ensuring that our sheets are safe. I want to send out a disclaimer that not everyone will be hitting the sheets this Valentine's. So if you are single and you don't have any partner, you can still come, because the greatest love is self-love. And
Very
you
important.
first have to know what's going on with you. And it's always good to have a baseline. If I know that I have a partner who is being tested regularly, I know that he's a responsible lover and he is in a better position to protect me.
Yes, and I know that, Lucine, that at this time we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Sure.
And we have been told, in terms of social and physical distancing, and of course, you know, Valentine's speak to physical intimacy,
Yes.
getting close
Definitely.
with
Yes.
each other. And even though COVID-19 is not a sexually transmitted infection,
Yes.
it can be passed on through kissing and close contact, including having sex. So how will that be factored into your education in this operation, Safe Streets, Sheets?
Safe
Safe
streets. Safe streets.
Sheets.
Yes.
Because we are living in unprecedented times.
You're right.
And I began by saying that yes, you may have people with, if you contract HIV, it makes you more vulnerable if you get COVID-19 to severe illness and dying, because your system is
The immune system is broken down.
broken down. So
Mr. Williams, this is a period where one must get creative.
you can have sexual pleasure without, I don't know, without physical contact. Is that possible? You can.
Oh yes, virtually.
Mhm.
Yes, long distance sex. Of course, phone sex.
Masturbation,
Yes. Look.
sex toys.
Yes, and even our positions. We have to choose wisely now. So most persons I have spoken to, Mr. Williams, they have chosen to go from the back so that there is not this too much face to face,
Close
and
contacts.
you can breathe in my face and I breathe in your face. So we can change our positions. One couple told me that she was not into being on top, if you understand what I mean. But she has to go way up in the air now to factor in COVID-19.
Yes.
My sex workers also tell me that they are thinking of using a plexiglass
Mm-hmm.
so that when their clientele come in, you can come down to the edge of the bed where you can access that private area through the plexiglass. So it's creativity.
Being creative is important.
Right.
It's all about safe sheets right now.
Right. And tell me something. What is your goal? What goals and objectives do you have for the program on February the 12th?
The goal is to ensure that we provide opportunities for individuals to come and get tested and know their status, and as such, early detection, aid early treatment, and that treatment, I want to add out that it is free. It is free early detection, early treatment, and that treatment help to provide an opportunity for those infected persons to live a long, productive life. And the objectives we have there is to issue lover's license. I want to bring in my colleague Ms. Vaughn to talk a little bit about the four-stage process we have in ensuring that you can acquire the lover's license.
Yes, the lover's license. It's easy. 4 steps. First step, education. And our counselors are going to do a very good job at that. They will answer all your questions, clear up any myths, any understandings, and put you at ease. Then the second is examination. It speaks to that test. So actually, you will get a good FERC before Valentine's. FERC meaning, it's an acronym, FERC.
Yes, it's not FUCK.
No, thank you very much. I am glad that you caught
Yeah,
it.
but what some people don't know, that FUCK really came about meaning for unlawful carnal knowledge.
Yes, yes.
And that's how it actually came about. And it has stuck meaning actually something else for sexual intercourse.
Right,
Yes.
and it also means to stick or to dig.
Yes.
And that is where that came from also. So it's a good FERC. FERC. It's free. and it's fast, 15 minutes. It's like a quickie, I tell you. E, it's easy. It's just a finger prick now. R, it's reliable. These tests are 99.8% accurate. And C is confidential. We have the best counselors.
Yes.
So you are in good hands. So 1, education. 2, the examination, which is the finger prick. 3, demonstration. You have to know how to use your tools.
Very important.
Sometimes you hear people say, but nurse, the condoms break. The condoms you all give, they're not good. They're bursting. And when I say, okay, show me how you use a condom, they forget to leave the space at the tip. Okay? They are storing them in very hot areas. Then we have the female condom, and we have the male condom, and we would have our safety officers at that booth to show you how to use them, and so you can also practice and do your redemonstrations. And finally is the certification, where you go by our secretary and she stamps your rider's license, and that is the official seal of the Ministry of Health. Anybody can find a card. If I drop this, God forbid, you may be positive, but you may fill it out as negative. So that's why it's important to look for the certification. That seal that says this was stamped by the Ministry of Health, it's authentic. So it's four. Education, examination, demonstration, and certification. Love is like a driver's license. And you have your love.
And to emphasize on the demonstration, we also have lubricants for the other sexual oriented individuals. We have lubricants, and that's also to prevent the wear and tear of the condoms and all of the stuff. So it's very important, and that's why the education comes in, where we inform the public this is how to use it. We're not just offering you those materials, we're letting you know how to properly use them to be safe. And also behind the objective is that everyone under or in the age of adolescent and sexually active are advised to do a test at least once a year, just as an annual regular health checkup. And based on individuals' unique circumstances, we also encourage that they do more frequently as possible, just to keep themselves safe, ensure to know your status and how to live productive lives.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think, you spoke about adolescence, which really is that stage of development, let us say between 13 and 19, but in our case we have 16 is the age of consent basically for sex.
Right.
And that is basically high school.
Yes.
You're in high school. Do you think that condoms should be given out to high school students?
Let me take that one. I am usually out in the high schools, so I have them on a one-on-one basis. When you hear our school children speak, you would understand that we have a responsibility to protect our youth. We preach abstinence. We are going to give them all of the benefits, the pros and the cons. Abstinence, we push abstinence, but we are training them to make informed decisions. Not every child would choose to abstain. Hence, I don't give it out in school. But I'm going to say here now that if a child comes to me and I have knowledge that they are sexually active, I would try and get them to turn around. Because once you pop, it's difficult to stop, but it's not impossible. But until then, they must be given the tools to help them. I would rather have a promiscuous teen than an HIV positive teen. And last year, I think our youngest, not last year, about 2 years ago, we had a 14-year-old who was HIV positive. And I have to lie down in my bed at nights and ask myself, where would I have gone wrong? Have I failed this young person? So we have to use wisdom.
There is a thinking that giving young people at that age condoms
Doesn't encourage them.
is encouraging them to have sex or telling them, "Look, here is the green light,
No.
you can go and have sex."
No.
If I may jump in there, when we go to schools, we educate them, give them the information. In fact, educate them properly on what to do, how to prevent themselves, how to be safe. But we do not issue condoms to them because we have to go with the laws of the land and also the policies in documented in the Ministry of Health. So we do not offer them condoms, but we make sure we educate them, give them the information, so when they're making decisions that will affect them,
Yes.
they will make well-educated and civilized
Right.
decisions that will not predispose them to, being infected with HIV or any other STIs out there.
Mr. Williams, I like when you said the green light to go ahead and have sex. I don't eat pork.
You're Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes, I'm a practicing Seventh-day Adventist.
I like the stress on the word practice. Right?
Yes. So if you bring a plate of food here to me with pork on it, I don't have to eat it. So teens don't have sex because there are condoms, because condoms are available. They would have been trained already to say no. And we also told them during this Valentine period, we have been going around to a number of schools, and we are saying, just like how you see the red for Valentine, when you see the red, you are in a traffic, you on Love Highway.
Definitely.
It's street jam out there, and children should stay off the road. And so that red for you should mean that that's a stoplight. Say no. Stop. Then the amber light means wait. Way down the road when you are ready for marriage, you would have gotten and you're financially and emotionally and physically ready. You may have the green light then. But for now, we encourage them to adhere to the stoplight and the waiting signs. However, note that I tell you, if they come within my presence and I know that they are sexually active, I don't know if you are going to lock me up, but I would protect them.
Now, containing the transmission of the HIV virus has to have a much more comprehensive approach than simply issuing condoms and lube and that sort of a thing. I think that you mentioned before about abstinence, speaking in terms of teaching our young people about abstinence. But there are several other factors that are fueling the HIV and AIDS, not only here in St. Kitts, but in the Caribbean. I mentioned some of them before. For example, we talk about poverty, we speak about gender, we speak about sex tourism, the stigma and discrimination, homophobia, environmental factors, social and public policy, and of course, our own thinking and views in terms of sex and so on. Do you know that there are still some people who are afraid to go to the shop to buy condoms because of their whole view that they have about sex, and or this person is going to know that, oh, I'm having sex, oh, it is such a dirty thing. You know, what is really dirty about it?
Exactly.
You know, so a lot of thinking basically has to change. Doctor?
Yes, that is where I think both the parents and those involved in any child's life comes to play, where we educate them properly by letting them know it is not wrong. A child of 5 years old, 3 to 5 years old should know the private parts. Oh, this is a boy, they have penis, and this is a girl, she have a vagina. You start educating them at that early age. Even the good book says, train up a child in a way it should go, for when they are old, they will not depart from it. So information is just as our brains are like empty hard drive, so whatever you put in it, it stays and it comes to use when it's needed. So I will encourage and I will say that the best thing to do is to keep the people educated and take away this fear of sex. There's no big deal about sex. If it was that bad, God wouldn't have made it.
Thank you.
It's not that bad, but a lot of our thinking in terms of sex, sadly enough, it's taboo, and a lot of it has basically come from religion, and especially the church.
Definitely.
And it's teaching in terms of the body. There is nothing good in the flesh. What is good comes from the spirit, and all of this. And sometimes, you know, the only sins that people focus on are the sexual sins.
I know.
And so therefore the sins that have to do with injustice and all of that, they are never really touched, and sometimes they're even worse than the sexual sins and that sort of a thing. And so sometimes people can come to have a sort of a, you know, negative view of their own bodies and the functions and all of that sort of a thing. But you mentioned something which was key, Doctor, in that parents need to teach their children in terms about their bodies. But sometimes these parents themselves are not comfortable and that sort of a thing because of their thinking as well. And once ago you used to hear, babies come on planes and all of that sort of a thing. And you don't want to tell your daughter about the menstrual cycle, or you don't want to tell your boys about having wet dreams and all of that sort of a thing, and those kinds of things. People still find them to be very uncomfortable conversations, discussions. And when I was growing up, it was a bit different because we didn't have, you know, access to the internet and easy access to looking at pornography and all of that sort of a thing. But today it is different. Young people, instead of getting it from their parents, they are seeing all the aberrations and everything else in terms of pornography.
Well, this morning I went to the George Moody School and we started our discussion. God is good, and I had them say what? God is good?
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
All the time?
God is good.
God is good. And I said, sex is good? No teacher, no teacher. No teacher. And even a teacher looked at me and she said, not all the time. And I said, come, work with the program. God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. And I told the children that sex is good. And all the time, sex is good. And not because we have tainted it, it means that it's not good. Because God looked at everything He invented and it was very good. But just as so with any instrument, anything that is made, you go back to the manual for instructions. What was the inventor's aim when he created it? And so I said, it's good. But it's for who? It's for adults. And when there's a time and place, it's for marriage. So sex is good. Just like how insulin is good. But it's not for you. If you're not a diabetic, it can kill you.
Definitely.
And so sex at this age can cripple you. It can cripple you emotionally, physically. And we had a good talk. So it starts at home. And here's where we come in. Some parents can do it. So parents, when your children come home and tell you that I said sex is good, endorse it. And that's why you said to that the church has this way of creating a lot of problems in our marriages. There are a lot of frigid people. They still feel that sex is not something to be enjoyed. And then when their partners walk out of the marriage now, that's a big problem. So
yes, because that too has come out of religion. And basically, it was taught that the only function for sex is that of procreation. And so therefore, the relational aspect with respect to sex was for many years ignored. where you have the personal gratification and the relational aspect of it, because sex was basically for procreation. And so therefore, every time you had sex, it must be open to procreation. So what you're preaching here today in terms of condoms and so on, that is where, of course, some churches say that, look, it is wrong to use contraception because it cuts off
Yes.
the procreational process and all of that sort of a thing. And we know that sort of a teaching and so on, because it interferes with natural law. Because every time you have sex, it must be open to procreation, and anything that stands between that, the contraception is basically a sin. So therefore, things like masturbation and oral sex and anal sex and all of those things would be looked at as sin, because here, of course, again, the focus is solely on the sex and not really on the relationship.
That's it. If I may jump in there, even the good book say, we want to go a little bit about religion. The good book says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge. If you don't have the information, a blind leading a blind, they're all fall in a ditch. So it's very important, and the fear factor they teach in religion is affecting generations. So that's why we appeal to the religious bodies to ensure that they create an avenue where the young coming ones can be informed. When they are well informed, their generations, children to come, would definitely get informed. If you're telling me, oh, you can talk about sex in church, and if you talk about sex in church, people like grab themselves and like they're scared, or they're like, oh, this is a taboo, it's something not to be said, but it is wrong. If you educate the people properly, use that opportunity, the platform as a church, to educate the people and say, come, listen, there is no big deal about sex. Sex is good, but there is a time and place for everything. You understand? So if you let the people know, hey, listen, sex is good, this is what to do, this, how to go about it, there's no big deal about it, and make them feel like if you have sex, you're being punished completely. You don't have a place in this world. And that is kind of putting them in a shell. When you shell a child so much without giving them that information, when they grow up, they become novice and they don't know what to do about it. If a child is a young child coming up, like a son or like a boy coming up, you should educate them about wet dreams. Hey, listen, sometimes you feel like masturbating,
masturbation,
everything,
development of their bodies.
Yes, you will start feeling like, oh, I see a young girl in class, I like the girl. Can they be free enough to tell the father, hey, a daughter say, Daddy, I saw a boy, I like the boy. I start feeling some way. Or a boy tell the mother, I saw a girl and I like the girl, my penis, became hard.
Yes.
All of those information should not be a taboo, but they should be free enough to educate the child and say, listen, this is just a natural phenomenon.
Yes.
Your body is reacting based. The fact that you are healthy, it shows that you are healthy. If your body is not reacting, that means there is a problem. We need to go check your hormonal levels.
Because it's a biological function,
it's a biological
isn't it?
function, a
normal biological function, but, and it's not unique just to human beings. It's all the creatures that God has made.
Yes.
That they have that function.
That is what I tell them. I said, listen, you are feeling all of these things.
The only difference is that we are not operating just in terms of instinct,
right?
But God gave us the ability to reason.
Yes.
So your larger head must rule over the smaller head. And I tell them, listen, you are going to feel this way. And sometimes I myself get a little taken aback with what I tell the school children. I want them to tell me. So I said, you are now in a period that begins with puberty, yes. And look, you are going to feel a kind of way. You are going to feel, and they say, honey. And I said, okay, I'm glad that I didn't tell them that. They said it. And so I said, things are going to happen. Your penis is going to stand up. And your vagina will jump. That's normal. So what that is now, it is an indication that it is working and not an invitation to work it.
That is correct.
And I have them say it after me. It's an indication. Say it, Mr. Williams. It's an indication that it is working.
That it is working.
And not an invitation
to
work it.
Right.
So I said, so the next time these things happen to you, you just look at your private part and say, it's working.
Every
It's
time,
working.
every time you have an
Walk.
urge, doesn't mean you have
Doesn't
to
mean-
you have to do something.
Right.
It's just a body. It's just your body.
Yeah, self-control comes to play a big deal. Self-control comes to play a big deal.
Right.
Self-control comes to play a big deal. That is where I still go back to the church. Self-control comes to play a big deal where the pastors or whoever is involved with the audience tell the audience, come, this is it. But, you have to know and be, in charge of controlling yourself.
Yes.
And if we do not involve and educate the people, the internet will.
The internet will.
These days, a 3-year-old can maneuver and use the webs, what's it called?
Better than
YouTube.
adults.
Better than adults, because they know what to do with this jet age. You just have to give that information, or they'll get it somewhere else. And the information they're getting, you are not even informed, because when they're in their rooms watching whatever they're watching, you're not there. You're busy doing something else. So you have to keep them informed. So when they see those things, it won't be new to them. They already have the information to run with.
A lot of what we were saying before in terms of the church, and don't get me wrong, because I'm a very religious person, and Lucy knows that what I would have studied and so on. But when they hear the term living in sin, because we have a lot of people who are cohabiting without really marriage, and they say you are living in sin. And the only reason they say you are living in sin is because if you are living together, the assumption is made that you're having sex. And you're having sex out of wedlock. And so therefore you are living in sin.
Yeah.
So what is better? Living with one partner in a relationship, even though it's not in wedlock, or being promiscuous?
Let me take that one.
Yes.
It's the same thing. Because sin is sin. And let's face it, if you are living a promiscuous life, it is sin. And if you are having sex with one partner outside of marriage, it is sin. But, so is gossiping. So is lying. So is unforgiveness. So we just want to take it away from the sexual realm.
That is correct.
And we are saying that persons should be responsible enough. Man, if you love me, you shouldn't be living with me for 15 years without marrying me. And I blame the young women. We have to value ourselves more and put our cards on the table and let them know our worth and live up to it. And so we can choose to say no to. And it's not only the school children. Adults can choose to abstain until we get ourselves in order. And if the man really loves you, he would come.
That is so true. That is very true. Now, what else would you like the public to know in terms of early detection?
Early detection based on expectations. I'll let my colleague talk a little bit about the expectations. What the public should be expecting when it comes to.
Okay, what are we expecting for these newly licensed lovers? I'm
Yes.
gonna come to your question. With the issuance of the lover's license, we assume that once having gone through the entire process, that one is now empowered to make informed decisions about their sexual health. The client now understands and is willing to adhere to the rules of the licensing bureau, and that is what we are pulling out on Friday in the square, that basically covers the principles found within the ABCs of prevention. 1, abstinence. We've spoken about that. 2, ABC, be faithful. Once you're in a relationship with marriage, if you're in a committed relationship, once you are physically involved, man, we expect you to be faithful. But faithfulness has different meanings for different persons. I had a client nurse, I have 3 women, and I am faithful to those 3. I'm not going outside of them. So here am I thinking that...
And we don't have a culture of polygamy.
Okay, so here am I thinking that I'm faithful, and so I am expecting that my partner is faithful, and unless we are gods, we can't tell for sure that our partners are 100%. Well,
so you're speaking about a monogamous relationship.
Yes,
once
you are physically involved. It's one partner per person. Hence the accidents on the roads. And that's why we are coming out to make sure that people have their license. And it's not just showing your license. There are other things that go with the license. So A, abstinence is still an option. B, be faithful. And since we can't tell who is faithful or not, we got to go to see quickly is correct, consistent condom use. And so we are saying that when persons have been tested, you just don't drive carelessly because you have your license. I see people now, they think that if I show this, it means that I'm safe, and so we can now go have unprotected sex. No, it means that we expect you to act responsibly. And just like how you put on your seat belt, we expect you to put on your sheet belt. So it is safe streets, safe sheets. And these sheet belts could be any form, any size. You got those for the female, and then you got, and listen to me.
You have the X large?
Yes.
Okay.
And we have the regular size. Yes.
All available. All available.
Yes, and listen. Everything has its pros and cons. Even the coronavirus has its pros. Man, you're putting on your mask. So when you mask up, then you cover up. Okay? So A, abstinence. B, be faithful. C, consistent condom use. And D, do the test. E, educate yourself. Do the test, and that's why we would be there on Friday, giving everyone the opportunity to get tested. That license that you have, as soon as you have unprotected sex, it nullifies it, eh? You realize that? If you have unprotected sex, you can't boast that you're negative anymore.
So it has to be consistent.
Consistency.
Yes.
It's consistency.
Yes, consistency.
You cannot let down your guard.
Yes, and not because it's Valentine's and I'm in the mood and I want to feel something different. As soon as you let down your guard, an accident, they're waiting for you. You got to make sure that you stay safe. And E, educate yourself. The World Wide Web is replete with information, and sexual health is no exception. But here in St. Kitts, you can go to St. Kitts HPU, Health Promotion Unit on Facebook, or you can just go to @St. Kitts HPU and get your updated information.
We are going to go to the phone lines. We're going to continue the conversation, but we are going to go to the phone lines. I realize that some people wanted to call in already. The numbers to call, the international number is 1-718-577-2916. That's the international number. And the local number is 465-2555. We welcome your calls. Of course, while we speak about using the condom and protection, and while we are speaking about it in the context of sexually transmitted infections, STIs, we're also speaking in terms of, you know, there can be pregnancies, people can have pregnancies when they really don't want to have them, which can then affect their future and plans that they've had because they were not ready to have a child and all of that sort of a thing. So it's more than one thing that can happen, even if you don't use the condoms. You know, and while we speak about HIV, of course, there are other STIs. You have gonorrhea, and you have syphilis, and you have herpes, and HPV, and human papilloma virus, and you have all of that sort of a thing. But Dr. Ofra, I want to ask you, what are the present statistics in relation to HIV/AIDS in the Federation?
At the present time, we have about 189 number of persons that are being infected, and in that we have males, 107 males involved and 72 females.
Okay.
And those under treatment at the present time, we have 111 persons under treatment, and in that number we have 80 males and 31 females.
Okay. We have a caller. Working for you, good afternoon.
You can be pregnancies, people can have pregnancies when they really don't want to have them, which can then affect.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, could you turn off your radio? We are getting a feedback.
Okay.
One thing that can happen. Don't use the condom.
Hold on.
And while we speak about
Yes, we are holding on.
there are other STIs that have gonorrhea and addictions and herpes and HPV and human papillomavirus.
That's better?
Yes, turn your radio down or turn it off.
No, I ain't turn it off or turn it down.
Turn it down. Turn it down so we can't hear it because there's a feedback. Thank you so much. What is your question?
I want to tell Mrs. Vaughn
Yes.
that I think they should start from the primary school, from the grade 5 level of teaching these things. Because the children nowadays, they borrow with all kind of electric in the eyes and in the brains and everywhere. So I think they should start from the primary school about these education. And Mrs. Vaughn, I'm here watching you. You're making me laugh. You know the voice. Have a good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you so much. I don't think that they're born with it, they're taught. They're taught. We are social animals, and of course we are socialized into certain things. Of course we have natural urges and all of that sort of a thing, but people have to be taught. Working for you, good afternoon. We seem to have lost that caller.
Yes,
Working for you, good afternoon.
Yes, man. Good afternoon. You know I come in and jam. Don't come in.
Yes.
And good afternoon, my family. And the doctor there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And if I never learn before, I learn now. Now, reality is reality. When God make the world, he make man, and then he tell a woman, you go there by the man. He ain't tell the man must go by the woman. So the woman have to come by us. Right? Now, this thing here about HIV. My mother got 13 children. And I never hear none of them people at that age talk about HIV and all this thing, and condom and all this thing here. The Lego and the produce. My question is this. What are the ingredients that make the HIV? Because I've been hearing all this choppiness about man went with man and woman go with woman and all this kind of thing here. But them things have been happening way back in Bible time. That's why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. And we don't hear nothing about no HIV till recently now. So that's my question. What make the HIV? Not where it was made, but what made it? Thank you very much. That's my question. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes.
But that is not why Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. As a trained theologian, it was a sin of inhospitality. But we got to your point.
First
Yes.
question first, and then the doctor. Okay, in response to that first caller, we are now in primary schools because we have realized that sometimes when we catch them at the high school level, it's a little too late. When they would have gone up and been influenced and peer pressure get on them, then it is very difficult, and by that time it's too late. So we have indeed started at the primary school level, even at grade 4, age appropriate lessons, then grade 5 and grade 6, where you know that they would be going into the heart of puberty. Then we delve a little deeper into those issues. So yes, caller, we are in the primary schools as well.
Yes, and also to add to that, we also have different information for different stages. So the information that we have for a preschool or a primary school
That is
different
correct.
from
It's
what we
according
have.
to the developmental
Yes.
stage in
So
life.
it's what we different from what we have for those in
That is correct.
in high school, and also the teachers as well. So we also have a program where we work with all the schools, and our health HIV secretariat, our information is out there, and our goal is to go out there and get the people informed.
Yes. Working for you, good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi, yes, good afternoon. I joined late, about 1:20. So I heard when the lady in the panel was saying that to protect yourself, always use your sheet and the condoms and whatnot. But what I learned in my health class, that females have to have their own condoms, because some men will trick you, will stick the condom in the package. So when they come to have sex with you, then you end up getting pregnant, or you end up getting an STD. So I don't know, but that's what I heard into a health class.
Okay,
I don't know if you can clarify that.
So certainly, thank you very much.
Yeah, if I may respond to that, it's always good to be very smart. Very important to be smart. If one want to outsmart you, you just have to exhibit a level of knowledge in that. And I'll encourage that if you don't trust your partner, it's best that you put the condom on for him, and be very watchful while you are involving in the intercourse, because as you said, as the caller said, they can prick it out and get it torn, and that can predispose the person to risk and get infected. So insect it, and that's why we also educate the people on how, both male and female, how to use male condoms and how to use female condoms. So you as a female should know how to also insect a male condom, and that will really help.
And when you take up that condom, you make sure that there is this your pocket, okay? It means that it's intact.
Okay, wonderful. Doctor, what has been the trend, for example, over the past 10 years in terms of increase or decrease in HIV infection in the Federation? What has been the sort of trend? Maybe 5 years going back, or 10 years? Have we seen an increase? Have we seen a decrease?
I will want to say that due to the fact, I want to match your question with the question that the caller asked in regards to where all of this is all about. People have been dying without being informed of what is the cause of their death. For example, somebody have a chronic disease. It's not because the body, it's just that maybe the person is infected with HIV and then the immune system is broken and then have AIDS, then that infection kills them. So if we don't have the given test, to specific tests for HIV, you will not know. You only say maybe the person have cancer, or maybe the person died of tuberculosis, or the person have bronchitis or something. So you are not informed. So that's why when you get to the hospital, they ensure to do a test, depends on whatever infection you present with, just to ensure that a proper history is being taken to know how to manage.
Is it ethical to do an HIV test without the person's consent?
No. That information will be related to you by your care provider, that we want to get this text done, and you also definitely have to sign a consent form.
Okay, that is important to know, because it raises ethical concerns.
Right.
Definitely. We ensure that we work in the guidelines of the WHO, as well as the policy in the Ministry of Health, to ensure that services provided to the public, it's fair and right.
And also that information in terms of, you spoke earlier, Lucine, about the FERC. And the C part of it, you mentioned the confidentiality. That is important, because we've heard out in the society before that, this person is HIV positive and things like that. And health professionals should be sworn to professionalism and ethical standards in which such information is kept confidential. Because then what happens? When that happens, it undermines the whole trust in the healthcare profession, and so therefore people don't want to go and get a test, because they feel if they get a test and so on, everybody on the street will know about it.
That is true. And Mr. Williams, may I add here that sometimes persons tell their close friends, I am HIV positive. And because you think you have so much trust in this friend, when the information hits the street, the first person to blame is always the care provider. And I am here to say that that is no excuse for persons not showing up for testing. We have testing all around the islands. You can go to your private doctor and pay for it. Very well, but we have free testing at every health center. We have it at Dr. Allen's Ferdinand's office. We have it at the National AIDS Secretariat. So you have a choice, but that should not deter you. Testing is now very confidential. We don't even write people's names. It's a code. And I always say that we operate by the do unto others, the golden rule.
Do unto others what you would have done unto you.
And so I know,
which is the ethical norm.
right,
Yes,
and we know that if we divulge anything, our program, as we say on the street, gone in. So the public needs to trust us because we have your back.
The other issue is that persons who are diagnosed with HIV also have an ethical responsibility not to go about and jeopardize others.
Very important. If I may touch on that, it's sometimes people.
In fact, in some places, I think if you go about and do that, it really should be criminal. There should be criminal charges for that.
Not really, you know, because nobody gave you HIV. The fact is, you took it. From the minute you lie down with somebody and have unprotected sex, you are saying, I love you enough to take all that you have. So it goes back to personal responsibility.
Yes.
But there and
yes.
then it may not be also unprotected sex,
Yes.
because that is not the only way it is transmitted.
Right.
So intravenous use of needles and so on
Right,
that we
but-
speak
All of those.
about and
That
so
is
on.
why we educate you. But I am speaking on the unprotected part where we said that persons are walking around infecting others. You have a responsibility to protect yourself. And that's why we are issuing the lover's license. It is you taking back that power in your hands. But something you said before, this HIV testing part is so confidential that if my brother's girlfriend shows up positive, I can't tell him. I can't tell him.
Yes, you have an ethical responsibility. You're
Definitely.
sworn to your profession. And we wish that they really would be more like you, because it really has to do with medical ethics.
Yes.
But my job is to encourage persons to get tested. I can encourage you to get tested. I can remind you of protection. And it really makes no sense walking around and telling people who are infected, because I might be watching you with a cockeye because I know that you're positive. But I would be looking at this person not knowing, and so my motto is, one is guilty until proven innocent. So every partner, you view them as being infected until you know otherwise.
And it's important that we drive away this stigmatism, because it's affecting a whole lot and affecting the part
the
at
epidemic.
which
Yes, and
people come out to get tested.
the stigma and
Yes,
the
it's-
discrimination.
Yes.
It's amazing that still today you have stigma and discrimination. Even when the COVID just came and so on, there was still the stigma and this discrimination. We have a caller. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, sir.
And good afternoon to your expert them there
Good afternoon.
talking about the HIV. Now, I want to ask you all a question. Now, somebody go around and get affected by HIV. You understand? If me as a man, do another lady there, got HIV, and that lady come show up to me, and I go with her without a condom, you understand? And I get affected by that. Don't you think that people who get affected with HIV should walk around, they shouldn't be named? I believe that they should be named. You understand? Because people will pull, people could do you anything.
Is what you allow them to do.
So I do know why that if someone got HIV, somebody got cancer, somebody got cancer, If somebody got kidney failures, then somebody got kidney failures. So we can't know. If somebody going around and got HIV, that we can't know. That person got HIV.
Yes, but in medical ethics, people have a right to their privacy and a right to have their medical records kept private. The medical professions cannot release that information to the public. If the person wants to tell somebody, then it's up to them to tell somebody. It is different. I mean, of course, if you have sex offenders in the community and so on, of course, you can release those names because that is how it is. Because then, especially sex offenders when it comes to issues with pedophilia.
Somebody will pull in another got it and will come and want to lead you onto it, and then you get it.
Yeah, but let me ask you this question: if you had AIDS, would you like people? Your personal business out on the street, your status?
Well, you see, that is what I said. Everybody not alike. If I get affected, and I know that I have it, I wouldn't go. Even if I sexually active still, I wouldn't go with a lady without a condom, or me loved one without a condom. I will make sure I always use a condom.
Okay.
Because I know that I'm sexually active.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. Someone else is trying to call in. Working for you. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Lucien, in some countries, HIV is considered to be a criminal act. If one knows that he has HIV/AIDS, he knows it, and he decides he ain't going down he alone, and he going out there going to leg a hip pipe like a fire truck. When they find out who do these things, who give all these people this HIV, he commit a criminal act, and they're going to deal with him like a criminal. But to my partner there, no, you can't do that. You can't exposing people medical problem. That is breach of confidentiality.
Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for the question. In response to that, different countries have different rules and regulations. And it's ideal that we abide to the rules and regulations and laws of the land. So if the laws of the land of St. Kitts, the Federation of St Kitts and Nevis, do not permit us to enclose the status of
to disclose,
patient,
yes.
it is really, really out of our line to disclose that, because that's us breaking the law.
It's a breach.
So we cannot do that. If in those countries they can operate in the margin at which they are being provided, but for us in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, we will ensure that we follow the law.
Certainly, it's amazing.
Abide to the policies.
Yes, doctor. It's amazing though, because the real fear would not come from the people who it is known who have the virus. The real fear should come from those people who have the virus and don't know they have the virus and who is spreading the virus. That really should be the fear.
That is the fear. That is the fear, because if you don't know, how will you get to treat yourself and ensure that you have a long, productive life?
So knowing is better than not knowing, and I think that is the point that you're driving home.
Yes.
Because when you know,
it helps
at
you.
least it helps you, because then you can
There's
talk about treatment and you can live a long life and protect your partner and all of that sort of a thing.
But I want to also tell that caller that in those countries the testing has dropped considerably, because people know that there are criminal laws. Why would I want to know if I'm HIV positive?
That is correct.
So you see the dilemma that puts us in. Then when persons are tested now, we encourage persons to inform their partners, and we also help them with that process of disclosure. Additionally, we do what we call contact tracing.
Yes.
So we get all of the persons that you might have been with over a period of time, and we bring them in for testing.
And that too is confidential.
Very, very confidential.
Yes, because
Very,
I
very
won't
confidential.
say that I tested Dr. Offre and I feel no. We say that we have reason to believe that you might have been exposed to the virus. and so we are offering you.
You know, being a part of the National Emergency Operations Center, when this COVID-19 just came to St. Kitts and so on, I would get questions at the New York press briefings, for example, wanting to know certain things. For example, what's the age of the person? Where do they live? You know, some people even want to know what's their name and all that sort of a thing. That kind of information is confidential.
Definitely.
You know, and you really cannot put people's business out there on the street like that.
Mr. Williams, we spoke of education. People should try and be informed. Do you know that if I am having sex with someone who is HIV positive on treatment, their viral load could be so low that it could go undetectable, and that person, it is highly unlikely that they would be able to infect me. Mind you, although they are HIV positive. No, I might be having sex with somebody else who was just newly diagnosed or doesn't even know if they're HIV positive. So those who we are not sure of, they are the real risk.
Yes.
And that's why we are saying everybody.
Right, okay. Now, Dr. Offrey, HIV/AIDS was branded as a gay disease because of how it was detected in the USA among a subset of the population. Is it a gay disease, and what is being done to reduce the stigma and discrimination with respect to this?
I will want to say that it is not a gay disease because it's not only transmitted from gay persons. Both straight individuals can actually get infected. That's why we said if having unprotected sex with unprotected vaginal or anal sex could predispose an individual to being infected. So
or oral.
Not, yes, or oral. It's not just for gay population. So, and what are we doing in terms of to reduce the stigma is educating the people and also using this medium to let the people know that HIV is not a death sentence. You know, people before now rate it to be a death sentence because they lacked there was no information much about it. So if you don't know much about anything, you get overwhelmed. But right now there are so many informations in terms of how to manage, how to prevent, how to manage, and also how to live a productive life with other treatments available. You understand, as my colleague rightly said, they are treatments that will help you boost up your CD4 count in such a way that the viral load is extremely low, that it will not be detected. It might show negative, and you might show me this card and say, hey, listen, I'm negative. But the fact is that it's still there, but it is so low that you have a very productive life. And even if a mother is HIV positive, we have antiretroviral treatment that will be administered to prevent the transmission of that HIV virus to the unborn child.
Concerning this stigma, we have now moved away from labels about men who have sex with men and the sex workers. I want to put in a plug here. The sex workers are safer than the average person because they know their trade and they protect themselves. We here playing careless, all right? So they are good. We have moved away from the labels, and we have, because what it is not so much the men who have sex with men. It has to do with the risky behaviors. And one of such is anal sex. Anal sex. And why? And that can happen in a heterosexual relationship. It is because of the anus. And the skin there is a lot thinner. Yeah. And so it absorbs quickly through the bloodstream. It breaks easily, and there is the presence of blood. So it is not so much the individual itself, but it has to do with the practices.
But that is where lubrication probably comes in, and that's where people...
we have lubrication. No, not everybody who takes lubes of a certain population, because someone told me a man came in here for lubrication and it looks like, and I see some ladies, are they sex workers? No. It simply makes it easier. And for persons who
To
are
penetrate.
like me,
Yes.
and for persons like me who are in menopause, you know what happens.
Hot flashes?
So, hot flashes and dry areas. So all of this, people have to get informed. That's the point.
Yeah, it aids in the friction, prevents the wear and tear of
Yes.
even the condoms.
Right.
Dr. Offra, in 2012, writing in The Lancet, renowned Archbishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa called for the decriminalization of homosexuality everywhere in the world as a necessary step in combating HIV and AIDS. He argued that increasing acceptance and reducing stigma of homosexuality is a crucial step in the fight against HIV and AIDS.
That's true.
Do you think that this crucial step should be realized in light of HIV/AIDS, given that over 70 countries and almost all of them in the Caribbean and Africa still criminalize homosexuality? What are the negative effects of criminalizing human love?
Thank you for that question. I would say that it's a very vital topic that he brought up here, because if you criminalize that situation, that process, it stops the people from coming out and being able to do the test. So if I'm coming out to do the test as a homosexual individual, you jail me for that. So with that, I won't want to come. As such, it will not mitigate the transmission. Instead, it will fuel it and agitate for more transmission of the virus. Because mind you, there are people that are bisexual, so that could also transmit from both the male partners to the female partners, and that's how it spreads. So we just have to apply wisdom on how we handle situations. With this case here, I think it's very important that they peruse it a lot, this system, the whole system, and know how to approach it in a way that it will allow and prevent the stigmatism.
Yes.
And allow them to come out and be happy, at least.
Because people don't want to, in terms of accessing, for example, testing, getting testing, counseling, care and treatment, accessing medical services and so on. People might be afraid to do so because of the stigma and discrimination that comes along with a particular sexual orientation.
Right. In medicine, we say a disease that is well diagnosed can be well treated. So how can we properly diagnose those people if they are not coming out to do the test? So if they are open enough, I accept you for who you are. And that gives me an opportunity to reach you and educate you, and also help you providing proper treatments that will mitigate the transmission.
But do you know, doctor, that part of the issue is that the criminalizing of human love is fueling the stigma and discrimination in our society. Caribbean and African governments hold on to this on their books. Their colonial books that was brought to us by the Europeans on the books. The Europeans have long since abandoned it, and we hold on to it. And then they say they are not going to impose their lifestyle on us. But at the very same time, it is what they have imposed on us we are holding on to, while they have long abandoned it. Because at the very same time, you're asking yourself, it's sexual discrimination. Do we criminalize fornication? Do we criminalize adultery? When those things are rampant. Do we criminalize, we have a lot of in the society, adults preying on adolescents.
Yes.
Very common. Very common.
Why is that accepted?
Mr.
In the Bible, these things were fornication and adultery were aberrations. So it is nothing that they're imposing, it's what they imposed on us we're holding on to. They're not going to impose it on us, but we have held on to what they have imposed on us.
Mr. Williams, I think that persons seem to think that if you are more accepting, it means that you are condoning what they do. And
we have to make a distinction between. But part of the problem too is the religion, and we have to make a distinction between decriminalization and sin.
Yes, and we have to understand that just as how you have to answer to God for you are lying, you are stealing, your unforgiveness, the homosexual has to answer to God as well. So we are not condoning, we are saying that we should let people be who they want to be, realizing that God will judge each of us.
And to be responsible. We are here talking about responsible behavior.
Yes, but
the issue is responsible behavior. It doesn't matter what gender, what sexual orientation, what sex you are. The issue that we are discussing here is being responsible in terms of one's sexual practices.
Mr. Williams, you cut me off, but I want to say this, that we are responsible. When we do that, we are responsible for the spread of HIV and other such infections. What is happening now? Persons are going undercover. And in order for us not to feel as if they're homosexuals, they're now getting married. As doctor said, that they're now bisexuals because they have to put on this front to prove that I'm not one.
Yep.
And they're putting other persons' lives at risk. So let them be.
It's all of the societal discrimination and stigma that is basically fueling that sort of a thing. I think what we should be preaching is in terms of people leading responsible lives. And so, but the society is the way that it still is, and this is going to continue until we see the need to have laws that protect people and laws that protect people's gender. We have a very, very long way to go. And holding on to these things is not really helping our society. More of the hypocrisy is being fueled and all of that sort of a thing.
Yes, and I think yeah, it's true. I think the best approach is always, it's an opportunity for us to always go back to revise whatever laws it is, whatever policy it is. You know, that's why in the Ministry of Health we ensure that, you know, revision of policies and laws are being put in place. We have meetings, we talk about all of these things. How is this affecting our day-to-day practice? What are the changes that is happening in the world right now that our present law or policy needs to be agitated in such a way in such a way that it needs to be changed or need to be amended, whatever it is, to ensure that we meet our goal. Our goal is to ensure that to prevent the spread of the virus.
Yeah, but social and public policy, doctor. But on one hand, a lot of times governments are concerned that they are going to lose support because they're in a Christian society. But over time, people will understand. Because Christianity too was brought to us by the Europeans. And on the other hand, they have decriminalized. They have decriminalized. So we can get into that argument, and I understand that this might be a topic for another time.
Another time.
But yes, it's working for you. Good afternoon.
That was okay.
We lost that caller.
Mr. Williams, you asked us earlier about how many persons were in St Kitts infected. Whatever that number is, we want the public to realize that these are only persons who would have come forward for testing. Additionally, if we say 392, you know that you have to multiply that by at least 3 persons and maybe 4 and maybe 5, because there must have been someone who infected you. So right away, that's 2. And that person was infected by somebody else. And how many partners?
It's a rippling effect.
Do they have? And how many partners their partners have? So that is the whole
It's a rippling
And
effect.
that's why we
So we have to
push-
teach against promiscuity
Yes.
and the faithfulness in relationship, which is so
Yes,
important.
And do not tell me that you are not using condoms because you trust your partner. I'm not saying that trust should not be in relationships, but I usually say that HIV is passed on through trust. It is because I trust you why I'm having unprotected sex with you sometimes, and then it is through that trusting experience whereby you will be infected.
We have a caller. Working for you, good afternoon.
Working for you, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm culture.
Yes, jam
That's why.
down. Yes, sir.
Let me show you something, you know.
Yes.
That lady there, she need to come on your program more often and the doctor.
Yes, Lucille.
These young people ain't had adherence, especially to the HIV.
Yes.
And
I don't know. We seem to have lost that caller. Please call back, caller, because you are making a very important point.
So while we're waiting for the caller to call, we want to also indicate that it is very vital. It's very vital for people to know that HIV is almost like any other chronic disease. It's like having a TB, tuberculosis. You know, it's just like any chronic disease.
We have the caller.
Yeah.
Working for you, good afternoon.
No, that was Jam Dong. This is me.
Yes.
No, I have a question. When God made the world, who he put in the garden first? To man or to woman? He put a man and then he put a woman in there. Now, hear this. If you have an island with 1 million men on it only, no woman allowed to go there, no man allowed to leave the island and go by no woman. Do you think any children or child will born on the island?
I think culture that is a totally different point.
Yeah, but
That
what
you
I'm saying,
no, it's a
man
different
gets
point to
woman.
what we're discussing here.
So,
That's a
so
totally
therefore,
different
that
point.
That could be a criminal act. When you catch two men doing it, woman, that's a criminal act.
Yeah.
Apart from the adultery and the fornication, sin is sin.
Yeah.
Sin is sin, but man was made for woman and woman for man.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank
Thank you
you
for
very
your
And
point.
also, one woman was made for one man.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Yeah, Doc, good afternoon, that's right.
Yes.
Afternoon.
Again, Doc, I want to know what year the HIV come up. Is that something that they all the time? And the scientists just discovered this virus going to man from woman? Because I want to know who created it.
81.
You understand?
Yeah.
And the next thing again,
Came-
Who created cancer? I mean,
who created cancer?
Yes.
Well, cancer is a thing that develops in human according to what they eat as far as I concern. You understand? But this HIV just developed like that, and you hear AIDS. I want to know if that was something there a long time, and then the scientists just discovered that this thing is HIV, AIDS, or whatsoever. You understand?
Yeah.
And then next thing again, that now we, as human beings, right? And God created all of us, and the Bible put out the commandments in there. How a man could go to jail to go have sex with an animal, and a man going with a man? It only the same thing that a man supposed to be prosecuted if going with a man, catch going with a man. You understand? Because if a man going with an animal, because he ain't supposed to do that, because the Bible written not all that in the Bible. You understand? And like a father going with a mother going with a father going with the daughter, a sister going with the brother, and all those things is incest. The Bible create all of those things is wrong things. So I believe that a man to a man, I believe that is a real sin and a cause and abomination of the earth in any country.
Incest and rape definitely are wrong.
Definitely. And if I may jump into there, that question, we can't determine people's behavior. Whatever choice you make is up to you. That is, we can't
Except
control.
it is
people's-
not.
As long as it's not affecting or breaking any law of the land, we cannot, control your behavior. We can only encourage and educate you about what risks can come out of whatever decision you make based on your behavior and your lifestyle. So we cannot. And based on where HIV and AIDS, it could have been there for a long time. So it's like it's like looking for gold. People don't know. You might not know they have, like in Guyana. I heard that they have oil. It wasn't
yes,
just,
they found oil, and there's
know,
dispute in terms of the territorial waters.
Exactly.
And
so it has been there for millions and millions of years and was not detected until whenever it got detected. Just like HIV, just like so many other viruses and also other bacterial infections that have been there, but were not detected until when we got the equipment enough to actually detect whatever virus it is, whatever bacteria it is.
So that there are so many unknowns that we have to stick with what we do know.
Yes.
What we do know is that it is here. It's already here. We may not have known where it come from, but it's here. And we know how it is transmitted. We know how to protect ourselves and others. And we know that there is treatment.
And that is what is important. And responsible behavior.
Yes.
Right.
I researched something that said that it is widely believed that HIV originated in Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo around 1920, when HIV crossed species with chimpanzees to humans. Up until the 1980s, we do not know how many people were infected with HIV or developed AIDS. HIV was unknown and transmission was not accompanied by noticeable signs or symptoms. While sporadic cases of AIDS were documented prior to 1970, available data suggests that the current epidemic started in the mid to late 1970s. By 1980, HIV may have already spread to 5 continents: North America, South America, Europe, Africa, and Australia. In this period, between 100,000 and 300,000 people could have already been infected. That is what I researched.
Yes, and it could be even further below that year. It could actually be below that because it has been there for a very, very long time, and it could have a different similar symptoms. And as I said, it's not just one disease that will kill a person. HIV, AIDS actually is not one disease. It's a collection of various diseases. So you might not die of tuberculosis, you might not die of pneumonia, you might not die of cancer. You know, it's all varies what will kill you, what really affects your system and take over your genome. So it's very, very important for us to know that it has been there. And it is not on the face. It's not like makeup that you could see and detect that, oh, this person is HIV positive or this person is HIV negative. No, people can look very healthy and they are positive.
Yes.
People in fact, they look even healthier than most people that are not positive. Because they ensure that they take their medication, they keep themselves right, and they get proper information that isn't provided by the Minister of Health.
Yes, and that is what I wanted to ask you, Doctor, before we leave, because we are out of time.
Yes.
But what have been some of the scientific breakthroughs with respect to HIV/AIDS since it was, detected, since it became a global epidemic?
I think in France, if I'm rightly correct, a scientist came up with a treatment that he indicated that could have worked, but unfortunately, I think it was last year or last 2 years, the person that was indicated, treated, died. And so there is no 100% proof of any cure whatsoever, but I am 100% sure of the treatment available to help reduce, to help improve the patient, whoever is infected, and also help to boost up their CD4 counts and to give them a long, productive life. And also having the fact that there are tests to help. The problem about this is that if you don't get tested on time, you will progress from HIV to AIDS. So that's why we advise the public, get tested on time. If you are HIV positive, you can live a very long life with the treatment made available.
And what are some of the symptoms eventually of HIV infection?
HIV infection
Can have
basically
several
you
symptoms.
cannot HIV you can get infected and you don't even know.
Up to 10
Yes,
years.
but right, but then you
So
start once you have the
eventually-
onset
But
of
when you
symptoms.
start getting to AIDS, you
loss.
can have, of course, you have weight loss, you can have,
Thrush.
trash coming out, and as well as you can have, increased temperature, to of course, to a given degree, all of those little symptoms like that, it's,
Breakout of
you have breakout and all of those stuff. It's always advisable that when you come to
Kaposi sarcoma.
exactly when you come to a physician, a healthcare provider, with those signs and symptoms, then we will encourage you to do the test just to rule it out. Because some people, I might present a different symptoms from the other person. Although they have similar symptoms, but
Right.
we
Only
can
test
prevent
to
different
differentiate.
symptoms. So depends on the level of my immune system, how much my immune system was active when I was infected. So it's also very important to know that it is not sin. You can't go with just the symptoms.
And at this time, there has been no vaccine. We see that vaccine has come on stream for COVID-19 in a very short space of time, in just a few months and so on, less than a year. But we have no vaccine against HIV/AIDS.
All because of the nature of the virus. It replicates and also changes, in a speedy rate that if you are trying to target a given strain, it replicates to something else. So it's kind of very, very difficult. And I think, they are still there's a big research going on how to come about the final cure of HIV. But at this point, it's only the medication that are available to keep us healthy, to keep us safe, and also to protect us, from the no medication to protect, but we have materials made available like condoms and other things to prevent and protect us from being infected.
Yes, Lucine, we're out of time. What?
Last word?
Yes.
Yes.
Our last word.
Everything in life has its pros and its cons. Even COVID-19, as I said before, I really want to stress this point, that during this pandemic, it's a reminder for us all to protect ourselves. I have a dream that just as how we walk the streets and everyone has a mask, if we were to police people's bedrooms as we walk the sheets, we would like to see everyone with their protection. So you cover up and you cover down. So we are wishing everyone a safe Valentine's. Follow the guidelines of the Licensing Bureau.
Yeah.
And there would be fewer accidents. And we would be safer for it. So we would have safe streets.
Safe sheets.
Ensuring safe sheets.
And Dr. Offrey.
Yeah, I'd like to let the public know that in light of this month of love, that we might exhibit so much emotions and hormones being spiked. I want to say that it is very important that you be smart and be wise in decision making, and know that you are expected to share the love and not the virus. By being safe and being protected, and keep yourself protected as keep your partner protected, is very important. And we hope that tomorrow, or Friday, we see a whole lot of turn up and come and get your license. Is very important. Come get a license and get the education.
Yes.
Is very important.
And this
Safe.
Valentine's Day, every lover should have their
Everyone.
license,
No
ride.
ride.
Doctor,
Very important.
Tell them about the goodies that we have. in
Oh
store.
yes, thank you so much for that reminder. Actually, for the first 100 persons that will be coming to do the test, we will have a wonderful opportunity. They will have a wonderful opportunity to have some top-ups, either Digicel or Lime. Thanks, a big kudos to the company Digicel and also to Flow for such an opportunity to work with them, partner with them to ensure that vision of this goal is being achieved. So the first 100 persons that comes definitely will have a top-up, and also there are other goodies that will be made available for the first 100 persons that will come. So see you there Friday, the 12th of February, 2021.
Yes. Get your lover's license.
Ensure to get your lover's license. Thank you.
There we go. Month of Love, February 14, Valentine's, get your lover's license. Thank you very much, Dr. Matthias Offrey, who is the National HIV/AIDS Program Coordinator, and veteran, Mrs. Lucine Pemberton Vaughan, health educator and counselor. Thank you for appearing on Working for You today and sharing on such an important topic. Sometimes these topics are taboo, but we have to speak about them. You know, they are very much needed. So thank you very much. Thank you to all of our callers to today's program. Thank you for your questions. We thank you for your views, your opinions. We also thank all of our listeners to today's program. Thank you very much. Your company is appreciated from week to week. Next week, we will be back with another Working for You program. Until then, I am Lesoy Williams. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.